Hey, I'm Ken Wright.
My name is Gerald.
We're brothers, and we both love cars and the stories that come with them. We've been able to spend some extra time together recently, and we've been remembering some of these stories, and we love to share them with others. And it turns out some of these stories may actually be true.
That's right. This story is Race to the Race.
This story is titled Race to the Race. And so let's set the stage for this. We've got some notes here. We wanted to make sure we were kind of accurate. And so the year for this story?
It's 1985, and they were driving a 1985 Z51 Corvette with a manual transmission, brand new.
Yeah, it was a fantastic car. And the players in this story are a couple of guys who worked with their father in a lot of heavy work. The car, I think, was a phenomenal leap forward from its predecessor, the C3 Corvette.
Yes, definitely had much better suspension, tires, just a giant leap for Corvettes, and had plenty of power, and they use this car often in SCCA, Sports Car Club of America racing.
Yes, so that's exactly right. I remember those races. The car did very well from what I remember. It was a car that had a very low CG, and it was wide, and it had something that its predecessor did not have, and that was enough tire. The car, as Gerald said, had a good motor with a lot of torque, and it had a manual transmission. It loved a corner. It had extremely stiff suspension.
Well, you could feel ants when you ran.
Yes, it was very stiff.
Very my dad called it like a forklift suspension.
Yes, but it was a great car, from what I've read about the car. So its competitor, as we just said, was what?
The Porsche 944 Club Sport, which the magazines at the time would sing about, and they were like, "Oh, the evil Corvette." But the 944 they just sing about, so it's supposed to be as good, if not better, than the Corvette on track.
So I can testify that after having driven both of these cars, I considered buying both. The Club Sport was a dog. It was like a Miata with a little extra torque compared to the Corvette. And that was borne out in competition as well. The Corvette did quite well against the Porsche Club Sport.
Crushed
my
it.
Memory.
It crushed it. It was no competition.
Yeah, so that's kind of the backdrop for the story, is a couple of guys. And so Race to the Race, the story starts with these guys, and they wanted to... hold on just 1 minute. They wanted to go see these cars in action on track, and they could have lived in Memphis, and
that race could have been in Atlanta.
It could have been in Atlanta, at Road Atlanta.
Could have been there.
And so that's a good distance away. And so one summer Saturday morning, they had planned to leave very early, with a wake-up time of
4 o'clock in the morning.
4 o'clock, no problem, right? And so the only problem may have been that their father asked them to
work late, and they were up till midnight working for their father, still planning on going to Atlanta with a 4 o'clock in the morning launch time.
And so it didn't happen.
Didn't really work out. It didn't really work out that way.
It did not happen, and so they woke up a little late, and so they bantered about what choices did they have, and it turned out that they'd already bought tickets to the race, and made plans, and
right, everything was set.
Everything was set, and so they did a few calculations, and I understand that the calculations revealed that if they averaged about 100 miles an hour, they could make it to the race on time.
Yeah. They decided that would be the best way to do it. And the problem with that is that the speed limit nationally at the time was 55.
And this was not a good time for the United States. Let's just go ahead and say it. It was terrible. It was a speed based in, it had no no basis in, safety or anything. It was, I think it was an arbitrarily determined number. I still to this day don't understand how an interstate highway that was designed initially with a speed of 85 miles an hour could be downgraded to 55. It was a terrible time for the United States. And so they decided to go.
So they launched, and they had come. After the calculation, they also realized that they needed to minimize the amount of time that fueling was occurring.
Yeah.
So, in order to do that, these two brothers, they had specific jobs when it came time to fuel, and then that's when they would also trade places on who was driving. And so, like for example, one would immediately go to the gas pump to stick it into the car. One would pop the hood and then pay the gas station, because this is
no credit cards.
Yeah, this was pre-swipe the card at the pump days, and so go pay and get the car fueled up as fast as possible. They would get it done in just mere minutes, like 2 or 3 minutes, and then boom, they would be gone. And it was like a Indy race pit stop almost.
It was like a pit stop. And so the total time for those pit stops were well less than 10 minutes.
It was a very short amount of time. We were running. I mean, we were literally running.
Who? So they were running very hard, and I think it's an old story. It could have been between 5 and 8 minutes.
Very quick. Very quick.
The car filled quickly.
It was quick.
And so another thing that they did was on highway, they would establish a good speed, right? A safe speed. We're not going to mention the speed, are we? No, we're not. So, so they would establish a safe speed, and they had something to help them, something that served as a warning, and it was
this device.
It was a device just like this one right here, which is about 40 years old. Tell us about that thing.
At the time, this is the Whistler Tri-Band 1000.
Yeah.
At the time, this was like space shuttle technology in police radar detection. It was like, you're like, oh, look, you have the Whistler 1000 Tri-Band.
Yes.
And so sure enough, they had that. And so this thing, it's like a Geiger counter. It starts deep, 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 and then it ends up, if you put the Geiger counter right on the plutonium, it's, kind of like that Geiger counter thing. So, so anyway, if, it has a signal strength of 1 through 9 on it, and along with that Geiger counter sound. So normally you get, it starts beeping at like 1 or 2 on the signal strength, which is low. And so then what the brothers would have to do is slam the brakes.
Yeah. So the driver would really hit the brakes hard, and the passenger would
count down the speed so as to let the driver know, because the driver was trying to stand on the brakes, and stopping that car from the cruise speed that the brothers were doing, it was kind of
It was a challenge.
It was a challenging thing to, to keep.
I can imagine it'd be a challenge.
And so the passenger then would read the speed off, so that when 55 was attained, the driver would then let off of the brake and act like that's what had been happening the whole time, like everything was normal. Okay. And so then when they went through the speed trap, and the signal strength on the Whistler 1000 Tri-Band would say 9, well then the brothers in the Z51 Corvette would just roll right through that speed trap at exactly 55 miles an hour.
And often just wave.
Wave at them, yeah. And that worked great, except one time.
One time, one of these guys, I'm not sure which one of them it was, decided that he wanted to see just how fast the car would go. It was advertised as being a car that would attain
150.5 miles an hour, according to the brochure.
That's what we've heard. But anyway, and so they were going a top speed run. The roads were desolate. It's decades ago, And so they were making a top speed run, and then all of a sudden the detector did what?
Normally, you know, I mentioned it starts at 1
Yeah, yeah.
and then eventually works its way up to 9 on signal strength. That did not happen this time.
Yeah? What happened this time?
Apparently there was a policeman traveling the opposite direction on the interstate, and he apparently saw that red Corvette doing a top speed run and decided to flip his radar on, and so there was no warning, so the Whistler 1000 Tri-Band went straight to number 9.
Number 9.
Maximum signal strength, which means you're actively being clocked right this exact second. And this was not a good condition.
It was not a good condition. So what did the driver do at that point?
Slowed down to, you know, approximately, okay,
A lower speed.
a lower speed. Let's call it warp 4 or 5. Had been doing warp 9,
Yes.
and had slowed down to warp 4 or 5, and the driver was asking the passenger, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" And the passenger turned around, looked out the back window, and saw the trooper car diving across the median from the other side of the interstate to get on their side of the interstate, the brothers. And the passenger announced that he's coming around from the other side on the interstate, but that he's way, way back there.
He's way back there. So the driver asked the passenger at that point,
Should we run? Should we run? The passenger hesitated for a moment, looking back at how far the cop was back there, realizing that the brothers had just been clocked doing something that would almost certainly get them taken directly to jail right then. Okay, so that's when the brother passenger said, if they catch us, they're gonna bury us under the jail, meaning we pretty much have to run. And so that's when the driver floored the car and went back to warp 9. And the passenger immediately, you know, because this is pre-GPS days, right? So, you know, the passenger was the GPS and had to recalculate the trip. And the big mission was to get off of this interstate, this road, as fast as possible, so that and hope the cop didn't see that happen. And so, sure enough, that's what we did. They got off the interstate, and then started driving on a U.S. highway that the interstate replaced, that ran parallel approximately to the interstate. And the cop apparently didn't see them do that, and so it worked. And
so they crossed a state line.
They left the state of Alabama, going across that on that U.S. highway that was parallel to the interstate, crossed into Georgia, and so about 2 or 3 exits worth of driving on that highway, the brothers decided then that we're losing too much time on this highway. It's slowing us down. We can't even, we just barely do warp 4 and 5 right now. It's just not working out. And so we're gonna be too late. They're gonna be too late for the race. So they got back on the interstate and returned to, say, a warp 6.5 speed, not full warp 9 speed. And so the Whistler Tri-Band 1000 started going off this time the normal way, you know, with just 1 or 2 being on the first initial Geiger counter sounds. And so the driver stood on the brakes, and sure enough, we
who?
The driver.
Okay.
The driver went through that speed trap at literally exactly 55 miles an hour. Exactly 55. And it was really kind of scary when that happened, because they were sure that they were being looked for. And sure enough, even though the brothers passed that speed trap at exactly the speed limit, the cops still pulled in behind them and followed them for a good length of time. Of course, the brothers were naturally nailed to 55 mile an hour at that point, with the cop directly behind them.
Yes.
And trying to, act nonchalant, like, just on a Sunday drive, like, doo-doo-doo-doo, everything's normal, yeah. And then the cop turned on the lights and pulled the brothers over. The brothers became anxious. And the brothers got out of the Corvette. This is back at a time when it was just normal to get out of the car when the cops pulled you over. Now that you don't do that, you stay in the car. But back then, people would get out of the car, and so the cop did too. And the cop asked the brothers, "Where'd y'all come from?" And one brother said, "From the north, from Nashville. Let me see y'all's driver's licenses." The driver's licenses did show a Memphis address on these brothers' driver's licenses. And then one brother, in an attempt to deflect discussion on what might have been happening in that car, started asking where. He was at first about to ask how to get to Road Atlanta, but at the very last second said, "We're trying to find our grandmother's house. Are you familiar with Atlanta?" And the trooper was like, "I don't know anything about Atlanta." And the brother persisted, "Well, our grandmother, she lives out here, and I was just," and so you could tell the trooper was like, "Would you please stop asking me these kind of questions?" And the brother persisted, and that's when the trooper said, "Well, I'm just pulling over all the red Corvettes I see today because there was a red Corvette that ran away from a Alabama highway patrol car doing speeds in excess of 150 miles an hour." And so the two brothers started laughing kind of half nervously and saying, "Oh, well, those guys are probably dead. You probably have to peel them off a guardrail somewhere. Yeah, we're just going to our grandmother." They were just going to their grandmother's house and in Atlanta. And so the Georgia Highway Patrol guy gave the brothers their driver's licenses back and asked them to drive safely. And so he got back in his car and drove across the median to go set back up for his speed trap. And once the brothers were no longer in sight of the cop, they returned to warp 6.5 because they still needed to make it to the race.
And I've heard that when they got to the race was intensely boring because the cars that were on track were going at a clip that was
underwhelming in the extreme. It was like, this is sad.
Oh my gosh.
They had just been driving identical to what's on the racetrack cars, just didn't have those slathering of stickers all over them, but identical car.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, was crushing those Porsche 944 Club Sports, crushing them.
Yeah, it was a great car. It wasn't the most reliable car, but it was a fantastic car. It motivated us to get more Corvettes. I love Corvettes. Gerald loves Corvettes. They're fantastic cars. I would never advocate anybody doing this, obviously, on roadways.
Right. Yes.
I would advocate people going to track days, and that's where you can safely explore the limits of high-performance cars. But anyway, great story.
Yeah, that happened, I think, when those brothers were in college, literally. Okay, so I think those brothers are a lot older now,
and smarter.
Clearly, don't do warp 9 on the interstate anymore. You
Cheers.
might do warp 9 on track.